is The Herd. Wherever you may be and however you may be listening, live in Los Angeles, iHeartRadio, Fox Sports Radio, and FS1 today. Christine Leahy, as always. Not always, really. I feel like she's my TV wife and she's having an affair with NBC.
Oh my gosh. That's an interesting way to put it. But I am now yours again because I have
After you spent the week in Vegas.
The finale in Las Vegas, and so I am all yours.
So when your wife goes to Vegas without you for a week, crazy things happen.
Except for I literally did not see the light of day. So I was working the whole time.
Well, it's great to have you here. We have a really good show today, and I want to start with this. So Magic Johnson this weekend, $500 million net worth. How has Magic made all that money? Did he start an app? Was he a tech guy? A lot of athletes have made a lot of money. How has Magic Johnson become a $500 million net worth guy? Magic Johnson's about relationships. Magic Johnson, more than any American athlete, including LeBron, including Brady, Magic is all about team, community, and understanding it. Nobody in this community is more pronounced at being a community builder outside of our mayor in L.A. than Magic Johnson. Magic Johnson came out this week and people got mad at Magic for being totally honest and totally authentic and totally right. He said, Magic not mincing words, and isn't this what we all want from our athletes and executives, honesty? I want to thank D'Angelo, excellent player. He has the talent to be an all-star, but what I needed was a leader. I needed somebody also that can make other players better and also somebody the players wanted to play with. Magic is so mean. No, Magic is so honest. Did you notice how many Lakers went to social media when D'Angelo Russell was traded to congratulate him? One. They didn't miss him. Of course, the fact that he came into the league at 19 and taped a player having a conversation about other women while he had a girlfriend and then put it on the internet pretty much destroyed his chance to be beloved, followed, respected by teammates. It is not the end of the world, but I went back and looked at the day that happened, and the quote here is, D'Angelo is sometimes 20 going on 14. And that, my friends, is the problem with the basketball culture in America. And I say that as somebody who loves basketball. And you often complain that I talk too much basketball. And I love basketball players. But we have a problem with the basketball culture in America. It is now all about getting paid. Got to get mine, got to get paid, compensation. And it should be the opposite. Because if you go to a YMCA, you'll see 60 and 70-year-old men joyfully playing basketball. It is a game you can play a long time. You don't go to a park and see 72-year-old men playing football. It's too violent. They're all beat up. You don't go to a park and see 72-year-old men playing baseball. Repetitive motion. Arms are beat up. Basketball you can play for a long time. If I said to you, name football players whose careers ended short with injuries, you could name hundreds. Top of your head, you could name 10, 15. If I said name baseball players, career shortened due to injury, you could name dozens. If I said to you, outside of abnormally built humans at 7'3", name basketball players whose careers have been shortened by injury, it's hard to think of any. So basketball players should not be in a rush for compensation. When going from high school to college and college to the NBA, they should be looking for the ability to become better teammates, better players, especially at point guard, which is the quarterback of basketball. You see, basketball is a sport that now players at great programs, Kansas, Duke, Gonzaga, Kentucky, Syracuse, are rushing to the NBA when they're late first and second round players. And forget physically, they're not close to emotionally ready to play. D'Angelo Russell is just now growing up. He could have stayed at Ohio State, a remarkable program, where he would be treated like all Ohio State athletes, incredibly, remarkably, prestigiously well, absurdly well, 50 tennis shoes, nutrition, chefs. No. I got to get compensated. Isn't that amazing? Football, your career can end in one hit in college. Yet players come back. Royce Freeman, Oregon running back, a dangerous position. I want to go back to college. Although he'd be a top pick, it's not all about making money. Andrew Luck came back to college to play the dangerous sport of football off a 31 touchdown, 10 interception year, 71% completions, 12-1 record. Matt Leinart back to college. Melvin Gordon, Wisconsin running back. Again, tough, dangerous position. I want to go back to Wisconsin. Nick Chubb, Georgia, back. Jake Butt, Michigan, back. High draft picks. Basketball culture is, I'm a second-round pick, meaning I have 12% max to make the league. I'll make it for 4 years, but I got to get paid for basketball. And if money is driving your decisions, and I tell my kids this regularly, you better find passion, and you better chase passion. If you're chasing compensation, you'll end up shallow, hollow, and disappointed. 90% of these basketball players in the NBA, even the lottery players, Zach Collins should have stayed. Zach Collins will take 2 to 3 years in Portland to be a good NBA player. He would have vied for college basketball player of the year. But somehow, I'd rather go to the D League, in a league with no trainers, where you're playing in front of family and friends, where the coaches are really not elite, and the coaches only care about getting to the NBA to sit on a bench. They don't care about you. At least your college coach wants to help groom you for the next level. So now NBA execs are totally trapped. Everybody available is literally 19 years old. That's the new culture. Get paid. So I got to take one of them. So I might as well take the most talented one. And these guys all come in the league, and they're wildly immature. Forget physically. Some of them can play physically. Most can't. Some can. But the ones that are physically ready, like D'Angelo Russell, aren't mentally ready, aren't emotionally ready. And then Magic Johnson calls him out and says, he's not a leader. Nobody wants to play with him. Well, you bet he wouldn't have taped a conversation with Nick Young if he was 2 years older. But when you're 19, making money, rush to pros, let me get in, this is what you get. And thank you, Magic Johnson, for being authentic and honest about a sport we both love. These kids are not ready from a maturity standpoint to play in this league. And when Magic comes out and says, we want to thank D'Angelo, he's an all-star level player, but we needed a leader, somebody that can make others better, somebody that players want to play with. D'Angelo Russell has D'Angelo Russell to blame. Because I got football players all over this country in a much more dangerous sport going back to college because they're doing it for more than getting paid. And so thank you. John Calipari, by the way, sat on this couch and he said, hey, you get what you get if you take a 19-year-old.
If you're going to draft a 19-year-old, deal with it. You deal with it. You're the team that's taking him.
Right.
I tell all these teams when they draft my players, you do know he's 19. Don't take him if you're trying to think he's 23. I had him a year. This is the greatest kid. If you don't understand that, do not take him.
Let me segue to this. Tonight, I won't be watching. I might stumble upon it, but I'll be so sickened by it I will not watch. The NBA on TNT tonight will have their award show.
Why would you be sickened?
Let me read this, Christine, if I may. Defensive Player of the Year, Rudy Gobert, Draymond Green, Kawhi Leonard. Most Improved, Greek Freak, Rudy Gobert. Coach of the Year, Sixth Man of the Year, MVP, Westbrook, Kawhi Leonard, James Harden. The two players that don't even get runner-up consideration or third place are the two best players in the league, Kevin Durant and LeBron James. Tonight, Russell Westbrook will get a sympathy vote for MVP. This happens all the time in awards. Remember the show 2.5 Men? That's a good show. 2.5 Men. Charlie Sheen, John Cryer. Very good show. I think it was on for like 10 to 15 years. Wildly popular. Wildly profitable. You know, John Cryer won an Emmy the year after Charlie Sheen left. It's the only time he was ever nominated for the lead actor, and he won it. Was he really the best lead actor? No, John Cryer had to deal with Charlie Sheen's madness. So voters said to him, even though the show's ratings were going down, it was a sympathy vote for a talented guy, John Cryer, who has a terrific reputation as a wonderful person and a terrific actor. But it was a sympathy vote. And tonight, Russell Westbrook, who had the second most turnovers in 40 years, shot 42.5%, is incredibly difficult to play with, who, by the way, the guy he guarded had the most uncontested jumpers of any other player in the league, will win the MVP because that mean old Kevin Durant left him. Yeah, a guy, a point guard, shooting 42%, who can't hit threes in a three-ball league, watch next year, much like John Cryer the following year, not nominated. That's the way the game works. The media has agendas, always has, and sympathy is often the calling card. The best team in the league is Golden State. Here's LeBron's numbers on the screen against Golden State, the best team in the league. 34 a game, 56%, 39% on threes, plus minus. Westbrook's numbers come significantly down against the best team in the league. I always thought moving up was valuable, but apparently against the best team, your numbers cave. Tonight, when you watch Westbrook win, it is what John Cryer won during the Charlie Sheen madness. Westbrook, like Cryer, is an immensely talented person and loved by many, but it, make no mistake, is a sympathy vote. And I will not be watching. I will be watching.
You'll be watching American Ninja Warrior.
You know what?
You?
Tonight, Christine, I will watch at least some of American Ninja Warrior.
I will take it.
And that in itself is a sympathy vote because you're mad at me for not watching. But at least I know you and feel good about that sympathy.
It's a great episode tonight. You're going to really like it.
Tonight,
you cannot compare, by the way, Westbrook's regular season numbers to LeBron's finals numbers. It's not Westbrook's fault that his team couldn't get there.
Well, I can do it. I just did.
And plus, you're the one always criticizing Westbrook for caring about his numbers, but now you're looking at his numbers and saying that they're not good enough. So which is it?
Anyway, I feel very good about that opening segment. And it's great to have you back, the cheating television wife. She's having an affair with NBC. It's really bothering me. She left and went to Las Vegas for a week.
I sure did. I had a great time.
Yeah. All wives who go to Vegas by themselves, leave their poor, doting husband at home for a week, have a great time.
If it makes you feel any better, it was 115 degrees
I know.
every day.
I saw
and
that.
night.
I saw that.
Yeah.
Coming up next, this is the worst rumor in the history of American sports. Oh, my bad. It's the second worst, and the first one was egregious. I even wrote about it in the book I wrote, the one nobody read. That's coming up. Great to have you back. All sorts of stuff today. Chris Carter, Nick Wright, First Things First. That debuts Tuesday, September 5th. Will be joining us in about 10 minutes. I have so many different ideas today, and Christine Leahy's joining us. I want to say the worst rumor that wasn't true, obviously, but it's the dumbest thing ever, and it's amazing that a rumor can ever catch fire. But they do all the time. Where like a rumor catches fire, and you're like, this is ridiculous. It's not true. When David Stern, the frozen envelope, that David Stern just became commissioner of the NBA a few years earlier, and he would decide to freeze the envelope, thus giving the New York Knicks Patrick Ewing. Like somebody as smart as David Stern finally gets this first or second best job in sports. I mean, like running Nike, running the NFL, running the NBA. Could be the third best job, second best job in sports. I'm going to risk it all, an amazing career with a scandal. Like, you got to be dumb or not very successful to know how success works. Successful people wouldn't do that. You don't blow your career up at 37 when you literally have a 30-year career of making $20 million. You're going to blow it up. When the NBA didn't need New York to win. The NBA has never needed a city to win. It's not about that. It's about the players. So the new rumor is, and this is gargantuanly dumb, is that the baseballs are juiced in America. Because the home run pace is through the roof. So now the baseballs are all juiced. This is, of course, stupendously dumb. First of all, we see sports change. Basketball right now, three-point revolution. Why? Analytics. Why is baseball having so much home run? Instead of being Alex Jones and a conspiracy theorist, go to analytics. So what you believe to be true, all you people that think the baseball is juiced. Because if you haven't followed it, we are on record to obliterate every home run record. There's a guy for the Dodgers, and it's going to obliterate the steroid era home runs. And so people are like, how is this possible? Cody Bellinger plays for the Dodgers. He missed the first month. He's already got 24 homers. Cody Bellinger's on pace to hit 60. So it is unbelievable. 9 teams have more homers than the Dodgers. And if you live in L.A., it's home run derby every night. They had 3 yesterday. We're on pace to hit 1.27 home runs a game in baseball. That obliterates the record. So I understand people going, whoa. But to believe the ball is juiced, here's what you have to believe. You have to believe 2 things. That Rawlings, who's been with baseball since 1906, a 111-year relationship, that somebody got on the phone at Rawlings, like the CEO, and he said, boys, it's great to be here for the annual meeting. You all get me on that speakerphone? Yeah, I'm on my cruise ship here, my yacht. I'll tell you what I want to do. I want to roll the dice, blow up the relationship, and juice the baseballs without telling Major League Baseball. I'll see you guys in 2 weeks. I'm still on my yacht. Click. Rawlings is just going to go rogue. The CEO of Rawlings is not going to tell anybody a 111-year relationship with baseball. Let's blow it all up. They ain't the only people making baseballs, folks. Baseball could choose another company. I'm going to go with that's probably not happening. Rawlings isn't going rogue. The second thing you believe is that Rob Manfred, who's been in baseball for 30 years, and the last 15, all he wanted to do is be commissioner. He finally gets it. And in his 3rd year, he decides, I'm not going to tell anybody except that CEO of Rawlings on the yacht. Let's manipulate the baseballs and don't tell anybody. Yeah, I'm going to go with that's probably not happening either. I don't think Rawlings is going rogue, and I don't think Rob Manfred, I mean, God, if he did change the baseballs, wouldn't he take credit for it and go, yeah, I decided baseball needs more home runs. No, I'm just gonna wink, wink, not tell anybody in the sport. It's like, who came up with this rumor? A blogger? Do you get how business works? That's not how it works. Here's what happened. Go to analytics. Why are we seeing so many home runs? Let's go to analytics. Number 1, pitchers are being groomed to throw as hard as they can. They don't need you to throw a complete game. Starters go 6 2/3, middle reliever for an inning, setup guy for an inning, closer for 3 or 4 batters. Throw as hard as you can. Bullpens now have never been bigger. That's baseball analytics. Kansas City Royals were the first to get it, won a World Series. Just come in and throw gas. Gas. And everybody now, bigger, stronger athletes, is throwing 93 to 99. Those guys now throwing 102. Ball's coming in faster. Secondly, let's go to analytics. Strikeouts are better than groundouts. We had these defensive shifts. So ground balls, defensive shifts, more double plays. So now come to the plate and swing and get the ball in the air. So pitchers are throwing harder because the new culture of baseball is bullpens are big, expanded staffs, throw absolute gas, balls coming in faster than ever. And batters, now because of defensive shifts and the understanding in analytics that a strikeout's okay, but a ground ball can be a double play, they're uppercutting it and swinging for the fence. And balls are flying out of the stadium. And by the way, there's actually, well, what do you know? There's actually numbers that validate this opinion, not Rawlings and Rob Manfred covertly deciding to change the sport. Increased velocity every year for 16 straight years. Velocity has gone up. Fact, Tom Verducci article. Fact, increased pitching supply. Teams used 742 pitchers last year, meaning expanded staffs, throw as hard as you can. And what do you know? In the Verducci article, some of the increase is due to modern hitting philosophy to hit more balls in the air to defeat shifts. Well, what do you know? The Rawlings CEO on a yacht in the Mediterranean is not covertly and roguely changing the baseballs. Good God. At least it's only the second worst rumor and conspiracy in the history of sports. David Stern, frozen envelope, was number 1. Here's Christine with the news.
No. Turn on the news. This is the Herd Line News.
There's a report out there right now that the Rockets are trying to clear cap space so that they can make a run at Chris Paul, which would mean that he'd be teammates with James Harden. Now, I don't know how that would work. Like, would James Harden move to the 2? These are both guys that like to have the ball in their hands, so I don't see that working.
No, either do I. I think Chris Paul actually is smartly using the Spurs and the Rockets. I think Chris Paul...
Yes.
He's totally
to
using...
get what he wants.
Absolutely. I don't buy these trade rumors for 1 second.
I don't either. The only thing, and I've said this before, that I think would make sense is for Chris Paul to maybe go play for the Cavs and make a trade there.
I think Kyrie and LeBron, they need more. They need firepower. I think the way to beat the Warriors is you got to match them with some threes. And I think Kyrie Irving's the best offensive finisher in the game.
Yeah, now it's changed a bit, but maybe before. Also, the Pacers are reportedly not interested in acquiring Kevin Love. There were rumors that the Cavs and Pacers were discussing some sort of trade, but that the Pacers actually wanted picks and young guys instead of Kevin Love. So they could potentially bring in a third team to make this work. It's an interesting thing. I've also heard maybe the Celtics could be planning on trying to get Paul George after they maybe get Gordon Hayward. That would be a good team.
Yeah, but it's not going to happen.
Why don't you think so?
Danny Ainge can't pull the trigger on anything.
Wait a minute. First, what are you talking about?
Porzingis wouldn't pull the trigger.
Maybe they don't want Porzingis.
They don't want Jimmy Butler or Porzingis?
No, I don't think they do want Jimmy Butler. If you look at what just happened, we can get into that, but I don't think they did want Jimmy Butler. And now, if they get Gordon Hayward, right?
They don't have to pay anything for him.
But then it makes sense for them to move more aggressively to try to win now rather than plan for the long haul. And if they can then get Paul George, hopefully try to see if he'll stay there, not go to the Lakers after a year, then we're talking.
Listen, I think it would be great. I would love to see Boston and Cleveland go to 7 games and be really... Right. I'm for Boston making a move, but at some point...
But you're not going to blow everything for Porzingis.
Why not?
That doesn't make... Because you're not going to beat LeBron with Porzingis. So why would you blow up your future for that?
You're not blowing up your future.
Yes, you are.
You have 13 first-round picks. Give up 4.
Why?
Because you'll have a super player.
But one. Why not wait till you can have multiple super players?
Well, again, my thing becomes draft picks are wildly overstated. Danny Ainge's last 22 picks, his best draft pick is Avery Bradley.
Avery Bradley's a great player.
No, Avery Bradley's a good player.
I like Avery
LeBron's
Bradley.
a great player.
Well, you can only draft LeBron. That's a once-in-a-lifetime thing.
22 draft picks, no all-stars. I think draft picks are overrated.
But that's what they have. And you can't just give up your future for some immediate thing right now like Porzingis. That's not going to do anything for you. And finally, Kevin Durant went to... Actually, I wanted to tell you this. So when I was in Las Vegas, I was out to dinner and the entire Warriors team was in Vegas celebrating the championship. So I had dinner next to JaVale McGee. Just happened to be
God, of all the Warriors you could have dinner next to.
No, but then I went to the Ward Kovalev fight too, and Kevin Durant was there. The rest of the team not there. But anyways, speaking of JaVale McGee, Kevin Durant went to his charity softball game, and he was wearing a hat that got a lot of attention. I'm guessing this was custom. It had a cupcake on it with a ring on top instead of a cherry. So he is just making fun of all the people who said that he joined the cupcake team because, hey, the cherry on top is he has a ring. And this also reminded me, I remember when Russell Westbrook did this, he had the cupcakes that he put on his Instagram for the 4th of July. And then he said, "Happy 4th, y'all, us," which US. But I think this is funny. And I also have no problem. I'm glad that Kevin Durant's making light of the situation.
Yeah, I don't have a problem. Kevin Durant's the winner in that. He's going to win multiple titles.
Yeah.
I'll love him for it. Good for him. Christine with the news.
Well, that's the news.
And thanks for stopping by.
The Herd Lie News.
Chris Carter, Nick Wright. First Things First debut September 5th on Fox Sports 1. Bring them on. It's great to see you guys.
Applause again because I walk out with Chris.
I know.
Come out here by myself, it's crickets.
Fairly Spartan when you're out by on the solo situation. So I'm going to throw, first of all, I'm going to throw something crazy. And I think Nick's head's going to explode.
Uh-oh.
Because you know we both love LeBron. You, by the way, you appreciate LeBron, Chris, but there is an affinity for LeBron between Nick and I.
Yes.
So there is this understanding that the Lakers should just get LeBron and Paul George. And I'm going to throw this at you. LeBron will be going into his 16th year this year in Cleveland, right?
15th this year. It would be 16 when he gets to the Lakers.
16th to the Lakers. And LeBron, love him, is kind of needy and brings his guys and is sort of demanding. And the Lakers could have Lonzo Ball and Paul George and Brandon Ingram and either Brook Lopez opting out, more favorable contract, or Zubac, and Larry Nance off the bench, the makings of things people, but they wouldn't have a shooting guard. Why would they not pursue a max deal for a perfect fit basketball-wise Klay Thompson, weakening the Warriors, Michael Thompson? Klay grew up knowing and loving the Lakers. It is a better basketball fit. That LeBron simply can't be the answer to everything. He has become the Band-Aid for everybody's problems. And if I'm the Lakers, Klay's a better fit. I don't know if Paul and LeBron in his 16th year beat the Warriors. He'd take over the franchise. Is that what Magic wants?
First, you're saying that the Lakers can get Klay. Like, you're just assuming that they're going to get Klay, and Klay wants to go there. You threw out some fact that his dad played. That to me is like, but what does that really mean? His dad actually played for the Lakers. This just happens to be a team in the NBA that's in L.A. This is not the real Lakers. And also, his dad was a star before joining a team with a bunch of stars. So I think it's a lot different. I do like the angle of adding a two guard, but he's still going to get a max contract. You know, I think they're 3 or 4 players away from being competitive, not 2 players.
3 or 4 players away, unless they were to add LeBron, in which case they'd instantly be one of the 2 best teams in the league. I think Klay Thompson would be, let's assume he did want to go there. I think Klay Thompson would be an extraordinary consolation prize if Cleveland has once again screwed up keeping LeBron. If Dan Gilbert somehow is going to win Dunce of the Year for the second time in a decade because he loses LeBron twice. The idea that you could ever finish a sentence, that you could ever start a sentence with, you know who they'd be better off with instead of LeBron, and finish it and be accurate, I'm not going to believe. Year 16 sounds like, wow.
It does.
But this was year 14, and he was far and away better than everyone in the league by a mile. So do I think by a year and a half from now, Klay Thompson will have passed LeBron in the hierarchy? I don't. I understand the fit on the shooter part.
Yes.
I think Lonzo Ball might be able to be a good shooter.
Well, I think he is too. I actually think
he's got a funky release, but I think he can shoot. Chris and I were at a game where he hit about a 30-footer to beat Oregon. I mean, I think the kid can shoot. And so if you can get LeBron, get LeBron. Let's not overthink this thing.
Okay, I'm just this is theoretical.
Yeah, it's theoretical.
This is not database.
I got you.
I'm going to throw this out to you. There's a lot of different ways to parent. And I have, despite his silliness, his affinity for over-promoting, could I make this argument with Lonzo Ball? With his dad being almost a Don King figure, eccentric and goofy, in a weird sort of calloused way, that Lonzo, it's been good for Lonzo. He lives in a circus tent. So when he goes to run the Lakers at 20, he's a little calloused. His dad's embarrassed him. His dad's been loud. His dad's been created chaos. This is not a kid coming from a small college town with a quiet, reticent father, and you're the Lakers' point guard and Magic saying you're great. Is there an argument to be made that circus tent LeVar Ball has added a little callous to Lonzo that could actually benefit him?
Well, first of all, I think it's about the kid's personality. His personality is best suited when he has a parent like he has. Now, I've coached a lot of kids. There is no shortage of crazy parents. All right? When you're out there in youth sports, there's a lot of parents like him. They just don't have a microphone. They're just not sitting on this couch. But in my experience, the last 20 years in coaching the youth, probably the most difficult thing is managing the parents compared to the kids. So I think that his overall personality of being a team guy, also his natural nature is kind of quiet and introverted. Yes, I like that compared to if he was a copy of his dad. Yes, but at the end of the day, I think people miss this. You see all those clips of him practicing. When you're on the court practicing, you're not thinking about your parents. You're not thinking about your life, what you come from. No, that's your safe haven. So I'm not necessarily as worried about him as other people because I've dealt with great athletes and them having crazy support systems around them and them still being able to overcome that.
I also think I think you've got to recognize there's almost two versions of this guy, LeVar Ball, and how it relates to Lonzo. There's the version that you see on television. There's the version that same version you saw on this couch, which I was in the building that day, and I had talked to him before he went on the show. And then after he had the dust up with Christine, I walked up to him in the green room, and I was like, hey, man, you know what I think about you. I told you what a good father I think you are. That was out of line. Like you have that version, the almost WWE caricature.
Yes.
But then you also have the guy who I just read on Twitter this morning from Clarence Hill. This weekend, 8 a.m., coached 20 kids in basketball and then cooked them all breakfast. None of them his own kid. The guy who is going to have 3 sons.
I watched some of the coaching videos, so he was actually probably just he was on the bench with the kids. Because this coaching I don't necessarily agree with. Okay, but yes, what I told him was people can dislike him for good reason.
Yeah,
I think he's been a tremendous parent. You got 3 kids; they're all getting full scholarships to UCLA. All of them. What's that? $250,000 each. Then forget what Big Baller Brand makes. That's $750,000 after taxes.
But when Lonzo was in his moment, I have to disagree with you. When he was in his moment and got drafted, he immediately said that the other 2 kids would be playing for the Lakers. So you can I don't tell people how to parent their kids. Yeah. I have learned that from especially in the hood. You definitely can't tell those people how to raise their kids. But he has made a bunch of mistakes,
yes.
And the kid's ability is the only thing that will cover up for his personality.
Yeah, the kid's ability, I think, is inextricably tied to his parenting, and because he made a big gamble when these kids were a very young age. I'm going to build basketball players. And he's got 3 of them. 2 of them, I think, will. One has made the NBA. The youngest one, I think, probably will. And LiAngelo, while he's probably not an NBA player, it looks like he could have played 2 sports in college, football or basketball, even if he's not a super elite professional level player. You got to give the man credit for that. Then you also got to recognize that in part of his kind of carnival barker mentality, he is going to turn some people off because he does some and says some out of line things. As far as has it prepared Lonzo, I agree with that premise. If you can handle that.
That's what I'm saying. If you can handle that, I could make the argument.
But you also have to remember, in the home, there's also another buffer. It's called a wife. All right? She's not in these interviews. She's not in between them.
Right.
So he has a buffer in his mother at the house.
All right. You're not doing anything, right, for the next 10 minutes?
We can stick around.
Okay. The show's called...
I am, but...
Are you...
First things first.
Okay. Take a quick break. Back in a second. It's The Herd. Welcome back, Chris Carter, Nick Wright. So I said to start the show is that years ago on 2.5 Men, John Cryer won the Emmy. It was a sympathy vote because he had to endure Charlie Sheen's craziness. And so John Cryer, for only time, was nominated lead actor and won. And then the next year, they're like, okay, we're done with his sympathy. He's not, very fine actor. So Westbrook is getting a sympathy vote MVP tonight. Second most turnovers in league history. Shoots 42.5%. The guy he guards shot the most uncontested jumpers in league history, and he's getting it because we feel bad for him because KD left. I think it's a silly award, and it's a sympathy vote tonight. And I think everybody thinks I hate Westbrook. No, I hate what the award is saying. It is saying John Cryer is having his best year. No, you're giving it because he dealt with Charlie Sheen. This is KD leaving when James Harden was clearly a better teammate this year. And LeBron and KD, who are not for any of the awards, even as a runner-up, are not mentioned tonight's awards.
Chris, you're on the Harden bandwagon, so I'll let you go.
Well, I think that there's no easy explanation for it, but the easiest one that I can give is that the voters are recognizing the triple-double, and they're awarding the triple-double compared to the totality of all the stats, which include playing defense. And that's a great stat because one of the characteristics you give Russell is he's such a high energy player.
Yes.
But it's amazing when you shoot the ball or pass the ball at one end, when you go halfway back down the court, how much energy you lose in playing defense.
Exactly.
So for me, I think Harden, and if you look at the team and the way the team performed, and the lack of talent around them. Russell, he didn't play with a lot of talent either. But the turnovers, that is a stat. To me, turnovers is like drop passes. So if we catch 110 balls a year, and I drop 5 and you drop 15, how can we have the same type of season when you've dropped the ball? So, to me, turnovers are critical and should be in the equation.
Listen, people know where I stand on this. LeBron's the MVP, and there's so many funny things about this. One is the top 2 in the MVP this year are going to be Russell and Harden. Top 2 NBA all-time turnovers in a season, Harden and Russell this year. This is going to be the second straight year Kawhi Leonard is going to finish ahead of LeBron in the MVP voting. There's been 0 straight years Kawhi Leonard's ever been better at basketball than LeBron. There's the fact that we are giving Russell Westbrook an MVP for being the second player to ever average a triple-double, yet LeBron James was just the first player to ever average a triple-double in the finals, and him winning finals MVP would have been laughable to everyone. All of this is silliness. So can I talk about a different Russell Westbrook thing that you guys mentioned before we came on?
Okay.
You and Kristen were both like, oh, yeah, the cupcake hat, that's fine. It is not fine what Durant wore. It is not fine that Durant wore the cupcake hat. It is not like LeBron wearing the Ultimate Warrior t-shirt or Draymond Green wearing the Quickie Championship t-shirt. That is going up against making a mockery of the team you just beat. Kevin Durant taking a shot at Russell Westbrook because Russell stayed and Kevin Durant went to the super team, that ain't cool, man. And it ain't cool that we are old enough to remember Kevin Durant tearfully, at the peak of his popularity, the MVP speech, right before he said to his mom, "You're the real MVP," he said to Russell, brother, people say I don't like you. You're going to be up here one year, and I can't wait for it. Because pretending they're brothers. I remember Kevin Durant a year ago when they asked him about Mark Cuban saying Russell's not a superstar. No, Russ, I got this. Mark Cuban's an idiot. Do all that because he's your brother. And then when you're at your apex of happiness, you take a shot at Russell? You have a hat made because Russell called you a cupcake because he was upset? You didn't even call him? That ain't cool. And everyone's like, oh, it's a cute thing. It's cute. It's taking a shot. It's a bullying thing. It's taking a shot at someone who is in a tough situation because you left the situation.
That's very anti-Warrior. That doesn't feel right to me. What Nick just said doesn't feel right to me.
No. And Nick is a little chafed because Durant didn't call Russell. Yeah. And you and I have been at multiple locations. And I tried to inform Nick, but he's kind of new to this.
Yeah.
Nick was like, Chris, if you were to leave FS1, would you call me and tell me?
You better call me,
okay,
man.
And what did I tell you?
Man, I don't want to revisit it.
It hurt my feelings. Colin, how many people did you tell before you made your last move? Or the one before that? How many people really knew?
Let's start with 1. Oh, wait, he worked here. 0.
But you can't. You're really, Chris, I'm going to turn away from Colin and look at you. I have the codes to your house.
Yes.
I'm
not in love with my house.
Man.
Okay?
If you are telling me I would find out through the media, Nick, that you were leaving to go do second things second.
I wouldn't.
I'm going to be angry.
No, you should. You can be angry. Ain't nothing wrong with that. But I'll call Danielle and check in with her.
Wife?
Danielle, make sure the kids and everything.
That's a whole different situation now.
Danielle, this is the deal because she understands. Yeah, I understand.
Okay, right.
He's getting on my nerves too. I understand why you left him.
See, it's a real thing. Now, he got another show in trouble, but that's their issue. But this is one of the things about the whole business. This is why I always support mobility. If you start telling people, Paul George told people, now the world hates it.
Yes.
Carmelo told people, players can't win. So my theory on this whole thing is no transparency. Because if you're Paul George and you're a good dude, Paul George not only said, I'm leaving, I want to leave, but my heart's in my hometown. Now he's a doubly bad dude. So I'm almost promoting sneakiness.
Yeah, that's fine.
Sneaky.
Man, I am not acting as if he needed to go to Enos Cantor's house and be like, Enos, there's something we got to talk about. But you can't have it both ways. You can't pretend this is your brother who you're crying about when you get your MVP, who you're so protective of that you're answering questions for.
I think you got the brother part mixed up. It's more like a step brother.
Oh, man.
That's the way it is.
Come on.
That's why he's got the hat.
He's a play cousin now? Come on, CeCe.
Listen, I'm going with Jerry West. I'm going with the Dubs.
On the MVP thing, because I know we're short, real quick. If Harden's not going to win it, If he doesn't win it, can we retroactively go back and take away one of Steve Nash's MVPs from the D'Antoni system and give it to James Harden?
No, you can't.
Since James Harden just did Nash's season on steroids and Nash got 2 of them because he's a floppy-haired Canadian.
No, let's be fair now. He did make Sean Marion and Amari Stoudemire, look at the numbers on that board, without Steve Nash and with him.
Yeah, but with Amari, it was also without a knee. It was also without ligaments. Amari, great no matter what.
Sometimes your
I saw
arguments...
him playing in Israel.
What?
They won a championship in Israel.
Amari's
still playing.
What?
We're out of time.
Yeah.
I'll scold you off the air.
Okay.
Yes.
Chris Carter, Nick Wright. This show starts September 5th on FS1. 1 hour down, hour 2 great. It's The Herd. This is The Herd. Wherever you may be and however you may be listening, live in Los Angeles. iHeartRadio, Fox Sports Radio, and FS1 all day today. It is an absolute pleasure to have you in. Christine Leahy joining me, the rest of the crew as usual. She just got back in Vegas, 120 degrees, Ninja Warrior on NBC, if you must, in prime time this week. And tonight. Big show. The MVP awards I won't be watching out of protest. Kevin Durant and LeBron up for no awards, not even as a runner-up, so that's my little silent protest. I want to say this, though. We last week, because of soccer, we were off TV, and I know many of our viewers are on TV, so I'm going to revisit a couple things, kind of with a different spin on it. But yesterday, there was a lot of talk, and late last week, about Paul George. Paul George plays for Indiana, wants to be a Laker, has been public about it. Cleveland's interested, but Indiana doesn't seem to want Kevin Love in return. Boston could be interested. Saturday is July 1st. That's the first day a guy like Gordon Hayward of Utah could select Boston. And the feeling is if Gordon Hayward goes to Boston, then Boston's like, okay, now we can get Paul George with Jason Tatum, Al Horford, Isaiah Thomas, Avery Bradley. Now we think we can beat, and they may be right, beat LeBron and the Cavs. Let me just say this, though. That, let's be clear, Indiana's most leverage was before the draft. Okay, but what Indiana's concerned about, Indiana didn't make the deal because they thought the Lakers did offer, according to reports, Julius Randle, Jordan Clarkson, and 2 first-round picks. Now, in the past 20 years, the 27th and 28th picks, which the Lakers offered, have produced one player who made an all-star team. But that's okay. Danny Ainge's last 22 picks, no all-stars. And they got to the Eastern Conference Finals. It is true that picks 11 through 30 are about a 50-50 coin flip to make the league. This was, however, a very good draft. And more importantly, Paul George didn't just say, I want out. He named a specific team, which changes everything. So as a general manager, you are really, really, really trapped. Melo did this to the Denver Nuggets. Thankfully, they had stupendously goofy New York Knicks ownership and management to supply them with more players than they probably would have been able to get. They overcompensated Denver. But if Indy gets Kevin Love in a draft pick, I thought that would be an absolute home run. Kevin Pritchard, GM of Indiana, disagreed. Remember, all trades are not equal because of leverage. It's like buying a house. In a bad economy, if you want to buy a house and you've got cash and you're qualified, you have leverage because houses aren't moving. All home buying attempts aren't equal. What's the local economy? What's the regional, national economy? If the economy is strong, multiple bidders on a nice house. If the economy's dead, you as a cash buyer have massive leverage, even as a non-total cash buyer. When you have a star, Paul George, who says, I not only want out, but I want to go to one team, you are done. You've lost 90% of your leverage as Kevin Pritchard. And I just want to go back to what the Lakers offered, because the sense is, what do the Lakers have to offer? You do get that Julius Randle averaged 13 and 9 in the much better West. And he's getting better every year. Is it realistic to think he could have been a 15 and 10 player in the weaker East for the Pacers? Yeah, I think that's what he would have been with the Lakers. Jordan Clarkson averaged 14.7 points a game and shot 45%. Is it realistic to think he could have averaged 16 a game in the weaker East and shot 46%? That's a starter in the NBA. And the Lakers also offered 2 picks. Just look what Chicago got for Jimmy Butler, a guy who just tore his ACL, a point guard who was awful as a rookie, and a draft pick. The Lakers offered you a 13-9 guy getting better, that's not arguable, and a 15-point-a-game guy who shoots a higher percentage than Russell Westbrook and John Wall and many of the top guards in the league. When you go into a room to negotiate, you have got to know the temperature of the room. Kevin Pritchard is forgetting something. Paul George not only said, I want out, he named a specific team. He made it personal, scaring off virtually everybody not named Boston and Houston. You've got virtually no leverage. And to add a layer to it, Kevin Pritchard is acting as if he was totally blindsided. Let's play the tape on this.
It couldn't have come at a worse time for me. If we would have known this a little longer ago or a few months ago, I think we could have been a little bit more prepared. And then the way it got out was a little struggling to us. We struggled with that.
Okay, I'm not trying to stir things up, but didn't we all talk about it on this show, and therefore I imagine it was talked about on other shows, that everybody knew well before the All-Star break that Paul George wasn't happy in Indianapolis? It was understood by guys like me. Well, if I'm talking about it, and bloggers are writing about it, and NBA beat reporters know about it, you're shocked by the development that Paul George wants out and wants to be a Laker. Again, I don't know Kevin Pritchard well, but I'll say this. Kevin Love and a draft pick? No. 2 starters from the Lakers and 2 draft picks first round? No. Maybe I'm wrong. Maybe in the next week, Kevin Pritchard can get multiple Celtic starters and multiple Denver or Celtic first-round picks. My bad, you win. But you got to know the temperature of the room. And right now, when you're going to buy a home, you better know what the economy is, and you better know your leverage. I just don't see the Pacers having any leverage at all, and you're never going to get equal value losing a star. Look at Chicago with Jimmy Butler. Torn ACL, rookie off an awful year, and Lauri Markkanen, who you have no idea if he can play at this level. You have no idea. There's a chance he could be a total bust. Maybe not a great chance, but there's a chance. Here's a second story today that sources are saying Chris Paul and Blake Griffin will become free agents. Now, my belief is, for anybody listening to this show, man, woman, college student, senior citizen, is that your true value as a professional, and maybe I shouldn't include senior citizens, your true value as a working professional, man or woman, young or old, is ultimately determined when you're available on the market. Anybody can have you bidding for you. So I have been critical of Blake Griffin through the years. I've called him the NBA's best volleyball player. He's very great near the net. Blake Griffin is now available on the open market. Let's see who the bidders are. His field goal percentage the last 6 years has gone from 55% to 53.8 to 52.8 to 50 to 49.9 to 49.3. Last 6 years, it's gone down every year. Why? Because the world has changed and you need your forwards to be able to back up and hit a three. And Blake Griffin is a 1993 NBA player. He was born 22 years too late. Steph Curry, by the way, had he been born in 1961, 1965, 1972, Steph Curry wouldn't be a unanimous MVP choice. I'm not sure he'd make the league. Maybe he does, but doesn't start and star. But there are times to be born. If you were a nerd and you were born in 1937, it wasn't a great life. If you were socially awkward, isolated, loner, stare at your phone all day and nobody calls, that's a tough life. If you were born a nerd now, socially awkward, you could become a billionaire. The world's changed. Sitting in front of a keyboard, being isolated, can make you a lot of money. The culture of basketball has simply changed. You have to shoot threes at the forward position. I mean, Tristan Thompson was useless in the NBA Finals. And this happened to certain positions in sports. Remember the fullback in football? Remember the fullback in the 70s and 80s? Even guys like Mike Allstott in the 90s. Useful, powerful, imperative, must have one. Now, it's been eliminated mostly from the football culture. It used to be that memorization was big. Hey, Bob can memorize anything. Then the internet was developed. You can just look it up on Google. Remember, it used to be that guy, everybody had a directions guy? Hey, Ted, you just ask him directions. He can get you anywhere. Ted now is lonely. GPS was created. Ted now sits at home by himself looking at Thompson road maps. He has no life. So that Blake Griffin is really built for 1988 and 1998 basketball. And he is on the open market now. Let's see all the suitors. I got nothing against him. But I said this when he broke into the NBA, is that he is the NBA's best volleyball player. Closer to the net, watch out. But the world has changed. And Steph Curry is what you want today. Kevin Durant is what you want today. Now, there are old players. Jack Sikma is a guy. Remember Jack Sikma? Illinois Wesleyan, went to the NBA. He was a 7-footer that would back up and shoot jumpers. He would really be a nice player today. And he was good back then. He may be great today. But I think it's interesting when you look at the Clippers. I think the Clippers eventually wouldn't mind moving off Blake Griffin. But I think they're sort of trapped. Because this is why a lot of teams in the NBA have really bad contracts. This is why the Lakers, Mozgov, Luol Deng, you get trapped. You have to have a league minimum spending money. And I think the Clippers are going to stay with Blake Griffin. Doug Gottlieb talked about this on the show last week, is that the Clippers' issues are the game has changed, and they've largely been constructed for a different era.
The construction of this team is for a foregone era. The problem is this league has not just become about space and pace, it's become about hybrid players. Can you, one, shoot to space the defense, as you point out with Blake Griffin, and two, can you guard multiple positions? They don't have that. The most blame is in the construction of the team. They never had a quality small forward since Doc's been there, and that exposes the fact that J.J. Redick probably isn't good enough at your two guard, and then they're built for the foregone era of true position players, and then we don't have a great bench. It all comes to roost in the first round.
There you go. Christine agrees with me. There's a lot of Chris Paul stuff going on. Chris Paul wants to live in L.A., I believe. I think a lot of this is, agent-created, agent-initiated, Spurs. I don't see Chris Paul leaving.
He just wants what he wants, and this is a negotiation tactic.
Yeah. I mean, and by the way, there are some, like the Paul George, I do think there's teams like Boston and Cleveland really interested in Paul George. I'm not saying the reporters in the NBA don't have gems, and there are things happening. I don't buy the Chris Paul stuff at all. I think that's one of those things that floats in the market. And Mel Kiper, at my former employer, used to always say this. The closer we get to the draft, the more I get used.
Yeah.
And I'm aware that sometimes I'm being used. The Chris Paul thing, I just don't buy. I don't think he's given up $45, $50 million, and I think he loves L.A., and I think he can play the way he wants to play on this team. I don't think in San Antonio he could do all the things he's allowed to do, and I think Chris Paul's got his money. He's got the city he likes. He loves driving to Staples every night, and I just don't buy all the reports. When shopping for car insurance, consider Geico. 75 years of saving people money. If you're serious, go to geico.com. They do something for 75 years. They probably know what they're doing. It is, I think I had the best day of the year yesterday for me.
I heard that. Why is that?
Morning jog. Wife surprised me then with an in-house massage.
By her? Or?
No, by a professional.
Oh, okay.
Then I took a nap. Then I went boogie boarding. Then I took another nap. Then I went over to a friend's house last night, a dear friend, and had dinner overlooking the Pacific Ocean.
Wow.
It may have been the best night I've had without kids. Kids' days are always great when you have fun kids moments, but just like selfishly hanging out yesterday, boogie boarding season is back in Manhattan Beach.
You just got to watch out for the sharks.
I know.
Apparently they are out.
Sharks are, well, life's full of sharks. Metaphorically, there's sharks everywhere in life.
Yeah, but the waters are extra full of sharks close to the beach now.
Do you buy into that?
What do you mean you buy into it? There are literally helicopters that you can see the sharks and how close they are to the water.
Yeah, you can't live life scared, though. I'm just going to go out there and I'm going to invade their space. I'm not going to be afraid of sharks.
Just stay away from the pier because that's where they chum occasionally.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Thanks for that shark info.
You're welcome.
Really appreciated that, Christine. Listen, I was reading this. The Westgate in Las Vegas is a casino, a sports book, and they say the Lakers aren't going to make the playoffs next year, and they're not going to make the playoffs. Even with Paul George, I think they would be a lower Western Conference team. I think Brandon Ingram, Lonzo Ball just have to grow. Larry Nance, they're getting better and better and better. But I do think it's really interesting, and I like LeBron, right? Everybody knows that. But he is now, if he left Cleveland, divorced 3 times, incredibly needy, high maintenance, still remarkably beautiful and aging well. But if you were the Lakers, isn't there the chance that if Paul George came here, and I think he'll end up here eventually, why wouldn't you go after Klay Thompson? Not needy, no baggage. You're getting all of his best prime years. It simultaneously weakens Golden State. I mean, if you have Klay and Draymond and Stephen Durant, you could have LeBron for 5 years and Paul George and Lonzo and not win a title. I mean, you're whatever you're doing, if you don't think you can be champs now, it's obviously about the future. I'm going to go with this, and it sounds crazy. If I ran the Lakers, LeBron leaving Cleveland, he's now divorced 3 times, remarried a woman, divorced her again. He's very demanding, aging well, beautiful, I acknowledge it, but there's a lot of baggage with LeBron, and I like LeBron. I'm a fan of LeBron. LeBron will be in his, 16th year? By not next year, if you got him the following year. You want to give him max money and a max deal? I really don't. And I'm pro LeBron. But there's this, gotta have LeBron. I don't think you really do. Laker fans have been sitting patiently through this mess for 4 years. I think if you just got Paul George and Lonzo gets better and you show a little patience and the Luol Deng contract works out, I think there's somebody else out there besides LeBron that you don't have to forego part of your soul to get LeBron. Listen, people show you what they are. LeBron has shown you what he is. He left his hometown team, and then he left the best exec in the league, Pat Riley. Then he come back to Cleveland, wins again, and would leave again his hometown team. Right now, LeBron's about LeBron. LeBron's in his second stage. His first stage was, I want to prove to the world how great I am. His second stage is all about LeBron. Me winning titles. If you're willing to leave for a second time, I'm for mobility. I'm not anti players doing that. But it does give you into a glimpse of what LeBron is about in his second career. He is about now just LeBron's legacy. That is paramount. It's about LeBron and his legacy. It's not about the Lakers. It's about LeBron. I would rather grow with Lonzo, Ingram, Paul George, Klay Thompson, Larry Nance Jr. I would rather grow organically for 7 to 8 years, all of them in their prime, than I would the Hail Mary to a 16-year-old, beautiful, high-maintenance baggage, 3-time divorced superstar who's not going to be giving you his best years. I mean, remember, LeBron's never played in the West. Now, I'm not saying he wouldn't be great, but the West can wear you out. Because every night in the West, it's a real challenge. You don't get the nights off like you do in the East. I mean, LeBron James in the East, he gets nights off when he's playing. And I also think the second part of this, which is really interesting to me, is I think, and I love the NBA, but there's a real issue here. If Paul George goes west, and I think he will, and if Gordon Hayward stays in Salt Lake, which I kind of hope he does, because, that's a good city and they have a good team. They were fun this year. You're going to get to the point, and I talked about this Friday on radio, where of the 25 best players in the league, 23 of the most captivating are out west. And if you're ESPN and TNT and you're spending $1 billion for a year and you're each hemorrhaging money, and it's your year to have the Eastern playoffs primarily, you don't think you'd complain? You don't think you'd complain? I mean, there's only, if Jimmy Butler just left, if Gordon Hayward doesn't go to the Celtics, you've got only 3, maybe 4 stars in the entire East. John Wall's not a star. He cannot captivate Washington, D.C. They're 26th in TV ratings locally. They're 23rd in attendance. He's not captivating his local market. He's a star basketball talent, but he does not transcend D.C. Bryce Harper is more talked about in D.C. than John Wall. I mean, in D.C., John Wall doesn't move attendance, and he doesn't move TV ratings. So quit telling me he's transcended. He's just really talented. You'd have LeBron, Kyrie, Greek Freak. That's it. You could argue that Porzingis at 17.5 points a game is your 4th best star. So this movement is not just going to affect individual teams. This movement over the next 2 to 3 weeks in the NBA could have ramifications beyond singular basketball teams. Christine with the news.
No. Turn on the news. This is the Herd Line News.
Paul George is the subject of a lot of trade rumors right now. And so when people saw moving trucks outside of his home, they were nervous that Paul George has already decided to move away. But he's trying to clear the record or set the record straight. And he tweeted, "Y'all sure that's my moving truck or my neighbor's? Hashtag gullible to the media." I would say that's a really great coincidence that your neighbors happen to be moving at this exact time. I mean, it could be true, or maybe you just want a different house in the neighborhood, but there could be something to it.
I would say probably after voicing interest in moving, he wouldn't buy a new house in the neighborhood.
That's a really good point. And he might be selling it. Maybe, hey, I'll put it on the market now because I know it's going to take a little while. Maybe I'll rent something. Makes sense. I
retweeted that. It made me laugh. Literally, the rumors went up, and there was somebody online. I guess he lives in like a reservoir, that somebody was already at his house taking pictures of moving trucks.
The same thing happened with LeBron, remember, from Miami? It was like a moving truck. Didn't he deny it? And then it came true or something?
Well, that happens a lot. LeBron couldn't sell his house. Yeah, it's hard to move a $30 million house in Akron. Shockingly, it's hard to move it.
Yeah, who would be the customer for that? There's probably like a couple people.
Doesn't $30 million home sell in the Hamptons, and they sell like on the coast of California?
Yeah.
They don't sell in. That's nothing against the Midwest, but that's a big price tag.
You could get a beautiful house for $30 million in the Midwest too.
I think you get a hotel.
Here. Yeah, exactly. So the 76ers gave themselves a new nickname after they selected Markelle Fultz with the number 1 overall pick. So now this is Joel Embiid. He put out this tweet that said that the new nickname will be the Feds for Fultz, Embiid, Dario, and Simmons. So they're calling themselves the Feds.
Feds are coming?
I happen to love this.
I do too.
Go ahead and give yourselves a nickname. I'm all for it. Kevin Durant, though, doesn't like it. He apparently said how they got a nickname and ain't played no games together.
That's a good point.
Okay, but, I really support Kevin Durant, but let the kids have their nickname. Why you got to hate on these kids who are just having some fun together? They got a new teammate. They're already, just like you, Kevin Durant, they're joining a new team. They already feel like brothers together. I'm disappointed in Durant for not supporting
You
this.
bashed Durant. You keep telling me how much you like him.
I do.
You've been banging on Durant all day.
No, I haven't. Where else did I bang on him?
The cupcake hat.
No, I love the cupcake hat. I think the cupcake hat was great.
Okay. Well, that was
I
Nick.
love cupcakes.
I'm defending Kevin Durant on this show.
I like the Kevin Durant thing, and I normally support him, but I feel like for a guy who just joined a new team where they all became really close quickly, that he would support the 76ers becoming the Feds. I sure do. And finally, you and I didn't get to talk about this, and I was really disappointed that I wasn't here when it happened, but the Timberwolves now have Jimmy Butler on their team, which means he is reuniting with Tom Thibodeau.
Yes.
He used to coach the Bulls. And so Tom Thibodeau, I don't think this is a coincidence, recently surprised the entire sales staff for the Timberwolves with a pizza party. Maybe I'm drawing some conclusions here, but I think Tibbs is probably very excited about the addition of Jimmy Butler and potential ticket sales going up, so he wanted to give the sales team a little extra incentive to sell more
Well,
tickets.
now there's pressure. You know what's interesting is obviously Jimmy Butler is a really, really good player. He's not a great three-point shooter yet. And what's funny is either is Karl Anthony Towns, Andrew Wiggins okay. I really like where Minnesota's at. But they have to – Zach LaVine was a good three-point shooter. Mm-hmm. And I like the trade. I think it elevates them to a playoff team. But
yeah, a lot of people, too, were upset with the Bulls. They thought this wasn't a good move for them. But from everything I've heard, the Bulls no longer thought that Jimmy Butler would be the face of the franchise. They thought he was a good player, not a great player. So they wanted to not have to pay him that much money.
Okay, so
and they got a good deal from it then.
Yeah, I think Jimmy Butler should be your second best player. I really do. So I think Karl Anthony Towns is their best player. And I think Jimmy and Andrew are 2 and 2A, depending on the night. But listen, I think the Bulls needed to get more. Like, you basically got a guy off a torn ACL, a draft pick, and a point guard who last year could frankly not play.
Yeah, but what were they going to get? They had already tried with so many different teams, and it seemed like the market wasn't very great for Jimmy Butler.
So, but if Lauri Markkanen is a bust, and I don't think he will be, but if he just does, you may have 2 busts and a torn ACL. You got to give me one. You got to give me a C.J. McCollum. You got to give me a player that I know can come in and score 17 a night.
I just don't think that they were getting that, or they had that negotiation power, and they wanted to get his money off the books, so they did what they could. I'm really interested to see how Jimmy Butler and Karl Anthony Towns will work together, because I don't think that Jimmy is a guy who wants to give up that leader spot.
Yeah, that's been your kind of feeling on Jimmy Butler. There's some ego there.
Well, yeah, I mean, listen, ego can be good, ego can be bad, but I think he wants a team to be his. And I also think it's going to be interesting to see him play for Tibbs again, because Tibbs is known as being a coach who works his players very, very hard. And Jimmy's got some bad knees. So I wonder how that relationship is going to go.
It'll be interesting.
Yeah.
When do we get into that space story? Is that next hour?
Yeah, don't give anything away. I'm very excited about it.
So am I.
Next hour.
Okay, I'm very.
Stay tuned.
We have strong opinions on this.
It's
both of us do.
Breaking news.
It's breaking news. It's the biggest story in the world today.
And we should maybe get Neil deGrasse Tyson on the phone just in case he wants to weigh in.
I would consider that.
Okay.
At least for the podcast. Christine with the news.
Well, that's the news.
And thanks for stopping by.
The Herd Lie News.
I was saying tonight's the NBA award show, and LeBron and Kevin Durant are the 2 best players in the league. They are not a finalist for any award, which I think is absurd. I really am not anti-Russell Westbrook. I think he's a good player, but he had the second most turnovers in 40 years. He shot 42.5%. His team won a single playoff game. His plus-minus in the league was 40th. Luke Richard Umba-Omate had a better plus-minus. Yeah, I was close. Can't shoot a 3. 99th in three-point percentage. Behind Brook Lopez. And defensively allowed the most uncontested jumpers in the NBA. 2 months ago, the last time Westbrook played, the number 1 movie was Fate of Furious, which you can now download tomorrow, so it's already available on home use. So I'm just making a point. Russell Westbrook is not the most valuable player in this league. I think it's a silly MVP award. I think it's a sympathy vote, like John Cryer the year 2.5 Men imploded. And I think John Cryer and Russell Westbrook are terrific performers. But I don't believe Westbrook, who's being unanimously supported by the league writers, deserves it. Steve Nash got some pushback when he was a 2-time MVP. Remember that when Steve Nash was 2-time MVP? He had 2 fewer turnovers per game, shot 50% field goals, 43%, and had more assists. He was remarkably efficient. And the knock was he doesn't play defense. Either is Russell Westbrook. But one thing Steve Nash did that was indisputable, and I think this is valuable, he made his teammates significantly better. Amari Stoudemire, without Steve Nash, shot 46%. With Steve Nash, look at his numbers. I'm putting him on the screen. Amari Stoudemire and Sean Marion were completely different players when playing for Steve Nash. Steve Nash was not only shooting 50%, 11.5 assists, a remarkably low number of turnovers for incredible usage, plus minus through the roof. Steve Nash was not a great defender. Made an effort, but was not a great defender. But they weren't goosing his stats. Steve Nash made every single player a better player. Victor Oladipo went from Orlando to Oklahoma City, and his stats didn't move. Value is not just creating production for yourself. Value, whether it's a husband, a wife, a CEO, a salesman, a school teacher, a landscaper, value is the ability to create production not only for yourself, but for others. And that is something Westbrook, in my opinion, simply doesn't do to the level of LeBron James, Steph Curry, or James Harden. I think it's a sympathy vote. I'm happy for him getting the award. But like John Cryer, the following year, he won't be in the running. And that is not to say Cryer and Westbrook aren't terrific performers, and their performances don't need to be rewarded, both financially and with some awards. But winning the award, I don't buy it. Coming up next, McIntyre is all worked up. And we'll get into this. He's got his theory of the week coming up. Founder of thebiglead.com. By the way, Tim Tebow has been elevated by the Mets from a low single-A team to a high single-A team. Therefore, he's getting a job promotion. People are upset. Tim Tebow does not deserve it. This is outrageous. Folks, I work for a minor league baseball team. Minor league baseball is not about winning and losing. Sometimes it's not even about developing players. Minor league baseball is about seat cushion night, fireworks shows, and getting people into small towns into the park. Tim Tebow's essentially a walking, talking seat cushion night. The Mets are using him for baseball business. I'm okay with it. He'll not play in the bigs. They're not insinuating he'll play in the bigs, but by moving him to Port St. Lucie in Florida, he will draw massive crowds, and I doubt he'll embarrass himself, although he won't be one of the best players because he's not one of the best players on his low single-A team right now. Tim Tebow's being promoted. This is not like they're moving him to the boardroom. They're just moving him in cubicles to one that he can draw a little more attention near the window, and I'm okay with it. New audience to buy tickets at a single-A ballpark. That's what minor league baseball is. He's the founder of thebiglead.com, host of The Big League on Fox Sports Radio on Saturdays. Speak for yourself as well. Jason McIntyre joins the show.
Oh, wow. I like that audience now with that applause. I heard Nick and Chris get it earlier. I'm like, I got to get that love.
Okay, so
show me love.
So you were all worked up yesterday. You called me on the show about what you're seeing in the NBA.
Colin, no league in professional sports can sell hope like the NBA, right? Baseball has parity. We can agree on that.
Yeah.
But hope is a little different, right? Hope is we can build through free agency. Look at the movement. LeBron, Durant, Paul George is about to be on the move. Jimmy Butler just moved. Hope is different than, like in the NFL, there's hope that if you get a quarterback, you're going to win. But if you don't have one, you got no shot. Hope in the NBA is incredible right now. And what they're packaging this summer is just unbelievable. Look at what happened with the Sixers last week, okay? They draft Markelle Fultz. They sold 14,000 season tickets. Set a record.
Isn't that amazing?
This is a team that's done nothing for 4 years. They aggressively tanked. They got a bunch of really good players. And now there's hope in Philly, right? We're going to be good. We could make the playoffs.
What about teams like Chicago where fans feel hopeless?
Well, I was hoping Christine would talk Jimmy Butler. I actually really like this trade for the Bulls.
Okay.
Think about it. Chicago was in the middle, right? 42-40. You know, maybe they would win a first-round series at best. Colin, now they're aggressively tanking. They're going to get a top-5 pick, and they got 3 young, good players from the Timberwolves. You know, Zach LaVine, we joke about him. He can dunk. He averaged 19 a game as a 21-year-old. Remember Chris Dunn, Providence? You loved him coming out. I mean, a quiet year in Minnesota, but there's hope that he could be something. And I love the kid Markkanen from Arizona. But, again, the Bulls have now hope in Chicago. Remember the last time they tanked and they were the worst team in the league? Who'd they get? Derrick Rose. Led them to the Eastern Conference Finals. I know he had the injuries, but there's hope that if you can get a star in the draft, maybe through free agency, you could be something in the NBA.
I went to dinner with Tom Penn, former league league executive, and we went to dinner Saturday night. And one of the things he said is, listen, he said Zach LaVine, he goes, points for points. He goes, if Lauri Markkanen can play, and he goes, I suspect he can. Yeah. Tom said, Zach LaVine gives you 19. Jimmy Butler gives you 24. He goes, if Markkanen can play and Dunn can just start, he goes, it's not as bad a deal as people say.
And you build through the draft. If you look at, and I was, mocking up the next 5 years in the NBA, who has the brightest future?
In the next 5 years.
Next 5 years.
Who has the brightest future? Well, I would say Minnesota.
Well, let's start with the Warriors, right? They have they're the best team. They got the young players under 30, but Minnesota would be number 2. Karl Anthony Towns, Andrew Wiggins, Jimmy Butler.
3 stars.
Big time. They have a bright future. You know who else does? Philadelphia. Embiid, who we barely saw, but he's been good. Fultz, number 1 pick, and Ben Simmons, number 1 pick. So they have a bright future. But you know who else is on that list? The Lakers, Colin. They're right there. Lonzo Ball and Brandon Ingram. Now, we'll see what happens with Paul George, but for the next 5 years, if I'm taking stock, I'm buying the Lakers.
And I'll say,
how could you not?
No, and I'll say this. One of the things, I don't think the Lakers should hand over their franchise necessarily to LeBron. If Paul George, now remember, a lot of these stars in the West have been around a while. San Antonio's old. The Clippers are old. I'm not by any means saying San Antonio's going to disappear. But Manu, Parker, Duncan gone.
Aldridge, what are we doing there?
If you start looking at the West, Golden State's obviously going to be great. Minnesota's still probably a year of chemistry away. There's a lot of Portland's roster's a mess. Houston's sort of experimenting.
Memphis is aging. The Gasol situation.
I agree with you. I don't think the Lakers should sell their franchise to LeBron. Listen, if he leaves Cleveland again, I joke with Christine. Now, he's now a 3-time divorce, married his ex, then divorced her, a lot of baggage, unbelievably demanding. And LeBron is telling you in the last 7 years, I'm about me.
Yeah. He's in control. He runs the league. We can admit that, right?
And he will not go to your franchise with any other directive. But I am running the franchise.
He's also not sitting in Cleveland and letting Dan Gilbert screw this up. Me and Broussard go at it over text all the time about this. And I still think LeBron's gone. Why are you going to let Dan Gilbert dictate your legacy? Because that's what's happening. What if Gilbert doesn't want to spend, Colin? And he says, you know what, we're over the luxury tax. We ain't beating the Warriors. We're good, LeBron. I mean, LeBron just has to deal with that, right? That stinks. Now, I do have a pie-in-the-sky scenario for LeBron.
Okay,
this is my theory of the week, according to you. Okay, so we just saw the Bulls. They're going to be tanking. Dwayne Wade is making $24 million. It makes no sense to keep Wade in Chicago, right?
Yes.
So they buy him out.
Yeah.
They either give him the $24 million, let him walk, or they pay $20 million, whatever they want to agree upon. Well, there's another guy in New York who's buddies with LeBron, who's been on the banana boat, who's in a perilous situation. Carmelo Anthony.
Right.
Okay? Phil just went toe-to-toe with Porzingis. Him and Carmelo all last season went at it. What if Phil convinces James Dolan, hey, man, can you buy out Melo? Let's just get him out of here. Toxic locker room. Let's move on. Build around Porzingis. All right, Phil, we got it. So now you got Carmelo and Wade on the market. They don't need to go get paid. They got bought out. Why don't they go to Cleveland, play with LeBron, and make a run against the Warriors? Tell me you don't love that. Where else are they going to go?
They do have a relationship. I'm a very reluctant Carmelo Anthony person, but I will say this, is that if Paul George doesn't go to the Cavs, and I suspect he may, I think it's down to Lakers, Boston, or Cleveland,
right.
You do get into a situation where LeBron knows from a matchup perspective you're not beating Golden State. And I think there's a certain fatigue with LeBron. LeBron never likes feeling trapped. Like this year he didn't feel trapped. I think they added pieces. LeBron's to the point in his career adding Ray Allen. LeBron gets on the phone. That's one of his things he does. I would say this. The D-Wade part of it, he would replace Darren Williams off the bench maybe. That component I agree with.
Well, think about this. Their bench this year was Kyle Korver, Richard Jefferson, and Deron Williams. Okay? Now you're going to Carmelo Anthony, who, by the way, scored 22 a game last year. I know we knock him, and he's 33 years old. He averaged 22 a night. You're telling me he's not in that end-of-the-game lineup over Kyle Korver? I'm certain that he is.
Yeah, he's long. He's a better rebounder. He'd match up better with Durant.
Certainly. Look, you look at Kevin Love, Carmelo, LeBron, Kyrie, and then you can either pick J.R. Smith or Dwayne Wade. That's a pretty strong end-of-the-game lineup. Not to mention, listen, LeBron led the NBA in minutes played. He doesn't need to do that if he's got Melo and Wade off the bench.
No,
certainly.
That's actually not.
Christine, are you buying this at all? No, she's
Maybe.
not into it. I really love this. I firmly believe.
No, there's some value in it. I mean, Dwayne Wade got paid. This isn't most of your. By the way, your other two theories the last 2 weeks have landed pretty well.
Is this why I'm on the show? Because I'm really
no,
bringing the noise
like
and the funk.
I like people that bring in content that I haven't thought of, and I think the D Wade to Cleveland. Listen, he's a mid-range shooter, but there is something to said. LeBron's getting to a point where he's established. I like veterans who are established. LeBron doesn't want to do flyers on kids. He knows what Dwayne and Carmelo.
Remember what happened when he left the court in the finals? It was instantly Golden State takes the lead. Williams can't make a shot. They had no bench. Dwayne Wade and Carmelo Anthony on the cheap is a phenomenal bench right there. Phenomenal.
Jason McIntyre, good stuff with TrueCar. Find out what other people in your area paid for the same car you're looking for. New or used, doesn't matter. $3,000 off MSRP. It's just a more confident car buying experience. Hour 3 coming up in the herd. This is the herd. Wherever you may be and however you may be listening, live in sunny Los Angeles. iHeartRadio, Fox Sports Radio, and FS1. Christine Leahy, as always, is joining me today, fresh off a week of Ninja Warrior, which is on NBC TV tonight.
It sure is, and you're going to watch.
Absolutely, I am tonight.
I'm going to give you a quiz tomorrow, so you better really watch.
Quiz?
Yeah, I'm just going to ask you who went the furthest.
Okay. All right.
Okay? And who was your favorite ninja?
Will do. But first, I want to get to this. So Magic Johnson this weekend, $500 million net worth. How has Magic made all that money? Did he start an app? Was he a tech guy? Was he? A lot of athletes have made a lot of money. How has Magic Johnson become a $500 million net worth guy? Magic Johnson's about relationships. Magic Johnson, more than any American athlete, including LeBron, including Brady, Magic is all about team, community, and understanding it. Nobody in this community is more pronounced at being a community builder outside of our mayor in L.A. than Magic Johnson. Magic Johnson came out this week and people got mad at Magic for being totally honest and totally authentic and totally right. He said, Magic not mincing words, and isn't this what we all want from our athletes and executives, honesty? I want to thank D'Angelo, excellent player. He has the talent to be an all-star, but what I needed was a leader. I needed somebody also that can make other players better and also somebody the players wanted to play with. Magic is so mean. No, Magic is so honest. Did you notice how many Lakers went to social media when D'Angelo Russell was traded to congratulate him? One. They didn't miss him. Of course, the fact that he came into the league at 19 and taped a player having a conversation about other women while he had a girlfriend and then put it on the internet pretty much destroyed his chance to be beloved, followed, respected by teammates. It is not the end of the world, but I went back and looked at the day that happened, and the quote here is, D'Angelo is sometimes 20, going on 14. And that, my friends, is the problem with the basketball culture in America. And I say that as somebody who loves basketball. And you often complain that I talk too much basketball. And I love basketball players. But we have a problem with the basketball culture in America. It is now all about getting paid. Got to get mine, got to get paid, compensation. And it should be the opposite. Because if you go to a YMCA, you'll see 60 and 70-year-old men joyfully playing basketball. It is a game you can play a long time. You don't go to a park and see 72-year-old men playing football. It's too violent. They're all beat up. You don't go to a park and see 72-year-old men playing baseball. Repetitive motion. Arms are beat up. Basketball you can play for a long time. If I said to you, name football players whose careers ended short with injuries, you could name hundreds. Top of your head, you could name 10, 15. If I said name baseball players, career shortened due to injury, you could name dozens. If I said to you, outside of abnormally built humans at 7'3", name basketball players whose careers have been shortened by injury, it's hard to think of any. So basketball players should not be in a rush for compensation. When going from high school to college and college to the NBA, they should be looking for the ability to become better teammates, better players, especially at point guard, which is the quarterback of basketball. You see, basketball is a sport that now players at great programs, Kansas, Duke, Gonzaga, Kentucky, Syracuse, are rushing to the NBA when they're late first and second round players. And they're, forget physically, they're not close to emotionally ready to play. D'Angelo Russell is just now growing up. He could have stayed at Ohio State, a remarkable program, where he would be treated like all Ohio State athletes, incredibly, remarkably, prestigiously well, absurdly well, 50 tennis shoes, nutrition, chefs. No, I got to get compensated. Isn't that amazing? Football, your career can end in one hit in college. Yet players come back. Royce Freeman, Oregon running back, a dangerous position. I want to go back to college. Although he'd be a top pick, it's not all about making money. Andrew Luck came back to college to play the dangerous sport of football off a 31 touchdown, 10 interception year, 71% completions, 12-1 record. Matt Leinart back to college. Melvin Gordon, Wisconsin running back. Again, tough, dangerous position. I want to go back to Wisconsin. Nick Chubb, Georgia, back. Jake Butt, Michigan, back. High draft picks. Basketball culture is, I'm a second-round pick, meaning I have 12% max to make the league. I'll make it for 4 years, but I got to get paid for basketball. And if money is driving your decisions, and I tell my kids this regularly, you better find passion, and you better chase passion. If you're chasing compensation, you'll end up shallow, hollow, and disappointed. 90% of these basketball players in the NBA, even the lottery players, Zach Collins should have stayed. Zach Collins will take 2 to 3 years in Portland to be a good NBA player. He would have vied for college basketball player of the year. But somehow, I'd rather go to the D League, in a league with no trainers, where you're playing in front of family and friends, where the coaches are really not elite, and the coaches only care about getting to the NBA to sit on a bench. They don't care about you. At least your college coach wants to help groom you for the next level. So now NBA execs are totally trapped. Everybody available is literally 19 years old. That's the new culture. Get paid. So I got to take one of them. So I might as well take the most talented one. And these guys all come in the league, and they're wildly immature. Forget physically. Some of them can play physically. Most can't. Some can. But the ones that are physically ready, like D'Angelo Russell, aren't mentally ready, aren't emotionally ready. And then Magic Johnson calls him out and says, he's not a leader. Nobody wants to play with him. Well, you bet he wouldn't have taped a conversation with Nick Young if he was 2 years older. But when you're 19, making money, rush to pros, let me get in, this is what you get. And thank you, Magic Johnson, for being authentic and honest about a sport we both love. These kids are not ready from a maturity standpoint to play in this league. And when Magic comes out and says, we want to thank D'Angelo, he's an all-star level player, but we needed a leader, somebody that can make others better, somebody that players want to play with. D'Angelo Russell has D'Angelo Russell to blame. Because I got football players all over this country in a much more dangerous sport going back to college because they're doing it for more than getting paid. And so thank you. John Calipari, by the way, sat on this couch and he said, hey, you get what you get if you take a 19-year-old.
If you're going to draft a 19-year-old, deal with it. You deal with it. You're the team that's taking him.
All right.
I tell all these teams when they draft my players, you do know he's 19. Don't take him if you're trying to think he's 23. I had him a year. This is the greatest kid. If you don't understand that, do not take him.
You know, I was thinking about this with these coaches, these college coaches. You know, there's so much made about what these college coaches make now, and it's just there's so much animosity. How can you not pay the players? You do realize there's a very, very compelling argument to be made that college coaches are far more valuable than pro coaches. I mean, what was Kentucky before Calipari? A mess. What was Alabama before Nick Saban? A mess. What was USC pre-Pete Carroll, Paul Hackett? A mess. Even at powerhouse schools, powerhouses, The minute they don't have an elite coach, they go into the tank. And the reason being, at the college level, 80% of the game is recruiting. At the pro level, it's about development, the playbook. And at the pro level, virtually all coaches are capable. You get to some college football coaches, they're just not very good. There's 359 Division I basketball programs. 60 of these guys aren't ready to be head coaches. They're just over their skis. So it's so funny. So much of basketball now is pay the player, pay the player, pay the player. The college coach is actually more valuable institutionally than a professional coach. Once you get to the NFL, when you really get to the NFL or the NBA, most of these guys, now Brad Stevens may be better than some coaches, a lot of coaches, but there's a difference between Mike Krzyzewski and the 359th best college coach is the Grand Canyon. Brad Stevens to the 20th best NBA coach is what, 3.5 points a game? Maybe. Go to Vegas, 2.5 points a game. So the disparity between great coach and average coach in the NBA is slender. In college, Ohio State's great. Jim Tressel leaves. Luke Fickell, under 500. Urban Meyer arrives Ohio State. They go 24 out of 24 in the Big Ten games. 2.5 years, don't lose a Big Ten football game. I think they won 24 straight or something. It may have been 24 straight games. It was absurd. You're not going to do that in the NFL. You're not going to give a coach in the NFL a 6-10 team and they're 15-1. It's just not going to happen in the NFL. So as much animosity as we have for these college basketball coaches making money, they deserve, if you look at their influence on wins and losses and the operational value of a program, I can make an argument that Bill Belichick is paid about what he deserves and Nick Saban is wildly underpaid. Go look at Kentucky basketball pre-Calipari. Go look at USC, 40,000 in the Coliseum. Go look at Texas before Mac Brown. They were getting 42,000 people. Mac Brown put 55,000 more people in the stands and got the suites at $250,000 a pop, all full. Donations doubled. Boosters tripled. That is worth $20 million a year. But you don't like that because we don't want to have rich college coach and player not being paid. But a college coach, to me, Calipari, it's priceless. He has completely, the press he gets Kentucky is incredible. Takes more than a roof to make sure your home is covered. Farmers Insurance, 89 years of knowledge and experience. Protect what's important to you. Learn more at farmers.com. Did you go to Wonder Woman?
I did, and it was the best movie I've seen all year.
Oh,
by
really?
Far.
Oh, okay.
By far.
By far.
So good. I actually cried in a lot of parts in it, and I don't even think it's a movie you're supposed to cry in, but I did.
Just
and
because...
you should have your daughter go see it.
Really?
Yeah, and your son, for that matter, but definitely for
Is
little
it
girls.
Empowering women?
It is. I left that, and I thought, no wonder guys feel amazing because they see all these superhero movies all the time that feature male characters.
Yeah.
I left there feeling so empowered. I feel like there should be more movies like that.
So you would like to be a super woman.
Yeah, that made me feel like I want to be a superwoman. But honestly, it's yes, it is a superhero movie, but there are so many underlying themes in it that are just for everybody. Really good.
That's good. I always thought if I was a superhero, everybody says they always want to be able to be invisible, but I wouldn't want to be invisible because then you drop on conversations and hear horrible things about you.
Or good things.
And it would hurt your self-esteem. And I wouldn't want to be able to fly because then you become a freak and everybody would be like, Colin flies. Stay away from him. He's a weirdo. So you become like this really introverted, scary, low self-esteem loser because if you could fly, if today I could fly, people would be like, who's the crazy person? I'd have cameras all over my house. It would ruin your life. And you'd get to the grocery store faster, but it would be terrible. And then if you were invisible, you'd drop in on conversations where people were saying bad things about you and you'd feel terrible about yourself and become a recluse.
Well, most superheroes are introverted. So maybe that's why.
Is that true?
Yeah, if you Superman, Batman, they
introverted.
Live, Batman lives in a cave, or his nice house by himself and his butler, and that's it.
So you'd rather be Batman or Iron Man, who are just guys that are smart and rich?
No, what I'd like to be able to do is have a flamethrower. That's all I've ever wanted.
Why would you want a flamethrower?
Because if some guy was saying something I didn't agree with, I'd be like, and just take his hair out.
And you don't think that would make people think you're weird?
That's a good point. I haven't thought this out like you have. I never thought about the reclusive aspect. So Lonzo Ball, I'm getting very excited for this. We're all waiting for the Paul George trade as you're watching him right now. Paul George could go to Boston, could go to Los Angeles, could go to Cleveland. I think he's going to – my gut feeling is Kevin Pritchard here pretty quick has got to make a move on this. And remember, Saturday is the day that Gordon Hayward Saturday can make a decision on if he's going to go to the Celtics or stay with Utah. So that's a very exciting thing in the NBA. The Gordon Hayward move, the Paul George move, Jimmy Butler's already moved. The other thing that I'm very excited about is that the Summer League is right around the corner. So the Summer League's not that far off, and last year it set attendance and TV ratings. I cannot wait for Lonzo Ball to be a Laker, and I'm not trying to be a homer. I've been critical of the Lakers. I think he's going to be a really good player, and I think it's going to take him about a year to a year and a half to kind of mature and defend, and he'll get abused on the defensive end. But Rob Pelinka, the new Laker GM, was on our show Friday, and when he's talking, there's some superstar things here he's talking about.
Watching Lonzo Ball in a 1-on-0 workout would be like, looking at Van Gogh paintings where all he could use is a pencil. He has this transcendent gift to see the floor and pass and put the ball on a dime like, Aaron Rodgers and Tom Brady and quarterbacks that like that just come to mind where you can just see a gift that they do things that other players can't do. And we just feel like a talent like that is just something that maybe you see every 10 years in the draft. And that's why we were so attracted to him becoming a part of the Lakers.
So they're putting it on record. That's something we haven't seen for like 10 years in the draft. That's not saying he's going to be a good NBA player. That's saying something like he's going to be an all-timer. Now, I don't know if he is. There is a sense that Magic and Rob are being a little hyperbolic with him, and he's going to be this and he's going to be that. Listen, if pressure wilts you, you're not a superstar. I got news for you. There were unbelievable expectations for Tim Duncan. When Tim Duncan came into this league, respected people like Don Nelson were saying he's David Robinson, but better. And David Robinson was a top 5 player in the league. When you go to Magic Johnson coming into this league, I mean, Magic Johnson, people were talking about LeBron James, the chosen one, Kobe Bryant. The great ones are not bothered by that. If you're not strong enough mentally to handle expectations, you ain't going to be great. So I don't have a problem with Magic Johnson calling out D'Angelo Russell, and I don't have a problem him saying, we want your jersey up in the rafters. Because if he's struggling with that, then forget about defending guys on the other end. He's not going to be a star in this league if that deters him. Christine with the news.
No. Turn on the news. This is the Herd Line News.
The Nuggets are reportedly interested in pursuing Blake Griffin. Makes sense for them, not for Blake Griffin. I can't see him going to Denver. There are some perks in Denver.
What?
Well, weed.
Really, Christine?
I mean,
that's really.
I do think of that.
He really plays in California, Christine.
That's true, but I guess I don't know. It's like everywhere in Denver. Anyways, I don't see it happening. I don't see Blake going to Denver, but it's interesting and good for them for trying to do that.
Well, he's on the open market. Let's see who the takers are.
Yeah.
I mean, what if Gordon Hayward doesn't? This is interesting. So Gordon Hayward doesn't go to the Celtics, let's say, and they don't land Paul George because Paul will not give them a 4-year commitment. And Porzingis they whiffed on. Is it possible the Celtics are like, okay, we've got to eventually here make a. I mean, if Paul George went to Cleveland and Boston did not get Gordon Hayward, I'm asking you, the Celtics, would there be a sense like, okay, now Cleveland just pulled away from us now again?
Yeah, which is why all of these rumors that are coming out right now, I love it. By the way, the last 2 weeks have been so much fun just hearing everything. But I wonder what's real and what's an agent putting it out or a team putting it out or strategy.
We both agree the Chris Paul stuff is...
Yeah, but I wish there could be, and there never could be, like a reality show behind the scenes of what really goes on in GM's offices because this stuff is fascinating to me. Magic Johnson said about D'Angelo Russell that he is an excellent player, but what he needed was a leader. Now, D'Angelo has heard what Magic said, and he's responding with this.
Like I said, it's good to be here. Can't really control that. What they say, I'm gone. So it's the past. I'm here now. So it's irrelevant, honestly.
it is irrelevant. He can take it in for himself and try to learn from it if he feels like he needs to. But I think that was a good response. I also see what Magic was saying, but I don't think it's necessary to call out a player for that. You've moved on from him, you traded him away, move on. You don't need to say, "Oh, we needed a leader." Like, why take shots when the guy's on the way out?
I like shots.
Why though?
Because we baby players today, and the basketball culture is patronizing and pandering, and
you're right.
I get tired of, first of all, they're the highest paid guys, which I don't resent at all. But if you're going to get all the good and all the love and all the swag and all that, you got to be able to handle he's not really a great leader. Okay, D'Angelo, become a better leader. It is now. How long can we keep saying, I love John Wall, he's great. Wait, dude, 6 years in the league, you've never won a big playoff series. In your biggest quarter of your life, you're 0 for 11 from the field. It's time to put pressure on John Wall. John, you got $150 million. You got to now get to the next level.
I just think it's tough when you're a player if you're hearing guys take shots at you publicly. How does that make you feel? Even if you're on the Lakers right now, if I'm traded or I leave, this is what Magic might say about me publicly.
Well, then be such a great employee they can't take shots.
To your point, too, I think Magic is one of the only guys that can actually say something and not get attacked for criticizing a player publicly. And finally, this is big news.
Okay.
NASA announced its Kepler telescope has identified 219 new planets, 10 of which are believed to be able to support life. They're not able to confirm this quite yet, but they believe that we are probably not alone.
Okay, you know what I want then? Don't tell me there's 10 planets out there, and because there's a plant on them, they're equal to us. If every new planet doesn't have 4 pro sports leagues, condominiums, and nightclubs, I don't care about you have a single cell bacteria.
See, I care about this so much because, as you know, I'm very concerned about our family trees. And I wonder if there are plants on other planets, maybe we could move our families there so that they'll continue.
Oh, I get so tired
because everyone gets so it's way in the future. We don't have to worry about these things. But my kids, I care about them. So I want to make sure that they can still live.
First of all, these scientists always say the same thing. We got a new planet out there. And it is capable of what? Because you find a microbe, a single-cell bacteria?
Okay, but wait, listen to this.
If you don't have nightclubs, I'm not interested.
They can make nightclubs eventually. Our kids can do that. But last month, Stephen Hawking said that humans need to colonize another planet within the next 100 years or they face the threat of extinction. So that isn't even that far off on the family tree. That's pretty close. That's my grandchildren need to go live on another planet or we're all going to be extinct.
How about we take care of the planet we live on?
Well, we're trying to, but I think it's too late. As Neil deGrasse Tyson told us, we are going to blow up.
We're not going to blow up.
He told us
I think we got that North Korea thing
we're going to combust.
Under control.
The sun is going to get so close to the earth. Isn't that what he said? That we're going to blow up.
I think we should just blame Trump. I'm at the point, just blame Trump. Christine with the news.
Well, that's the news.
And thanks for stopping by.
The Herd Line News.
All right, let's bring in Meta World. Peace. This is a guy that's about the world and peace in the world.
More planets.
See? He's with it. Would you go to visit another planet if you could?
Absolutely.
Oh,
absolutely.
Come on. You would not.
You're worried about your grandchildren having somewhere to live.
I'm not too worried about that. I just want to see other planets.
My grandkids are going to live in Hermosa Beach. They're fine.
I love Earth, it's great.
I love Earth, too.
But I would love to, leave space.
Go to Mars.
Go somewhere else.
Really?
Absolutely.
You saw the Martian movie. He was eating poop. Who wants to live there? That's awful.
No, he made potatoes.
They had a difficulty, though, right? Didn't they break something?
God, I'm with you. I like Earth. I have been so pro-Earth my entire life.
I would love to, go on the beach at, in Neptune or something.
Right? I think that you can actually sign up to go to Mars or the moon or something. There's, a high fee that you have to pay, and you can go in the rocket ship.
Yeah.
So, D'Angelo Russell, Magic Johnson's he's not much of a leader. I didn't have a problem with it. You played with him. Was he a great leader?
I thought he was an attempting leader. I enjoyed taking direction from D'Angelo. It was times where I played with him, and he would say, Meta, what are you doing? Go here, go there, And I thought, he did a good job. I thought Magic also said things where maybe players wouldn't want to play with him. D'Angelo has a history. So, I think part of it is true, and then part of it was
Let's
not.
be honest about this now. You can be totally honest about this. He does the phone thing. He tapes a conversation with Nick. It gets out there.
Right.
Listen, it pissed off some guys, right?
It was bad for him because how many players are going to want to play with somebody that did that? But it wasn't maliciously done. He didn't mean for it to get out there.
Did he apologize to you guys?
He apologized. And he's young, so he don't know how to apologize. These young guys, they're so entitled. So I don't blame him for his apology. I wanted it a little bit better, but it's not his fault because these young guys, they get everything handed to them.
Oh, I know.
So they don't have to work for anything. So it's part of that too. But he's became a much better leader this year.
So he grew as a leader. By the way,
he's going to grow.
What was his apology like? Here's what I would have done.
Yeah.
The next night, I would have come to the arena and I'd have told the coach, I need 5 minutes with the team.
Right.
And I would have just closed the doors and say, I blew it. I was totally immature. He never did that?
Well, it wasn't like that. It wasn't a great apology, but, he tried. You can tell he's the type of kid that just don't know how to apologize,
sure.
And a lot of people's like that. Over the year, I thought he did a good job of making his relationship with Nick better.
Okay, that's fine. So, it's funny about I was talking about this earlier. I love basketball. I absolutely love it.
Too.
I love college, pro. I can go watch high school.
I don't like college, though.
Well, but here's my thing. Here's what's happened to the basketball culture. It's all about getting paid.
Yeah.
Like good football players in a violent sport will go back to college. Andrew Luck, Matt Leinart, Nick Chubb at Georgia. Was it Gordon? Melvin Gordon, Melvin Gordon, terrific running back. You can get hurt in football. They said, we love the sport.
Right.
Basketball players now feel like, even if it's one thing, Meta, if you knew you were going to be a lottery pick.
Right.
Some of these guys know they're a second-round pick.
Right.
And they bolt college.
Well, being picked in the second round is often better than being picked in the first because you get your money faster. So if you get picked in the second round,
but why are you worried about money at 19?
Well, I'm just saying in terms of why you would want to go in the second round. Now, I feel like, the agents are kind of putting these young players in position to make a ton of money. And you know what? Sometimes they're not ready, and you get situations like these first-round picks that are, that came out early, projected to go high, and they don't have a career after that.
They don't.
Williams is an example from Cleveland, and there's a lot of other examples, So I think the players, they need more time. Look at Curry, 3 years. Michael Jordan, 3 years. Tim Duncan, 4 years.
They come into the league as men.
Yeah,
By the way, they've played for 3 years in the Carrier Dome, the Dean Dome.
Right.
They played in front of huge crowds. They've been booed. They've been hissed. They've been yelled at on their coach.
Of course, because college, they're on a.
So, to me, this idea that I can't wait to get out of college. Another thing is, I think college coaches really do, if for no other reason than a selfish reason to get recruits, they do want to develop the players.
I think they do, but the players coming out of high school are getting, they're entitled, and then the AAU coaches are picking them and saying, if you play on my team, you'll be the man, and then they go into college with that same mindset. Then they go into the NBA, they're not ready, and then half of these players are going to be in a situation where they're not going to receive the contracts that they wanted.
Somebody once told me that you really get rich in your third NBA contract. The first one, you blow it. you take care of family. You're young,
but yeah.
Then your second one, you're paying off your first one's mistakes. And then with the third one, you're a grown-up.
Right.
And you start really figuring out. Now you're like 29 years old.
Right.
You understand investing. Go back to your first contract. What'd you do with it?
Yeah, so my first one, I was living in Queensbridge Projects, so my mom didn't want to leave the hood. So then I instead of buying her a house, I kind of redid my house in the hood.
Okay.
So it was pretty cool. I put like steps and stuff in the hood, and new couches and TVs.
And were you good? Were you good with what did you buy yourself?
I got my first car. I got a truck, a Suburban. It wasn't nothing crazy.
That's pretty grown up.
I had my. It was, but then I had my times where I go to the bar and buy out the bar, and I did all that craziness every night.
A bunch of suits and stuff.
Stupid suits. Why do you need a 3-piece silk suit? People they sold me these things like you need 5 suits. I'm like, yeah, I do. I'm in the league, you know. I need to be shiny, you know.
Don't they like wait? Don't they wait for you like outside of training camp with like there's like women who wait for you?
Yeah, what about the girls?
No, from suit companies.
The girls they're great. I love females. I'm equality rights, baby. Equal rights.
But Trent Dilfer told me this story in the NFL. He broke into the NFL, and Trent's like everybody said, you got to have 10 suits.
No, it's true.
And then like everybody's like, you're like, yeah. And so Trent says, I bought suits I think I'd never wore.
Yeah.
That the suits game, everybody gets robbed on that.
They do. And I think what you can do is you can go shopping like Nordstrom's, and you could put together pieces that don't cost you, $2,000, $3,000. You can put together a shirt, a sport coat, and some jeans, or
you look cool,
and you still look good. You still look good.
You sound very grown up to me. It doesn't sound like you.
I'm 30, almost 40 years old.
Yeah, but I mean, it sounds like you bought a truck.
No,
you weren't buying like multiple.
No, I wasn't into like cars and stuff.
Good for you.
What were you into?
Oh, just take care of my family.
Yeah,
but
how about that?
I didn't get my first real car until like a couple years ago. I never had like a real expensive car. Yeah.
Good for you.
Yeah, so yeah.
I like that.
Okay, Lonzo Ball. I think he's going to be pretty good. What do you think?
At first, I didn't think so. I didn't watch him, so I was just going off the hype.
Yeah.
And I thought he was like a ball, kind of demand the ball, kind of like Chris Paul or these guys that hold the ball.
A little too long, yeah.
But now that I see him, he's going to be a champion. He's going to be a champion very, very soon. Like players that want to win, I think they, if you're in your prime, you might want to play with this kid.
That's a big deal.
You might want to play with him. You might want to get to L.A. You might want to get to L.A. because, he gets it. I didn't know. I didn't know he gets it. And I watched his highlights. I watched some games because, I don't think he's the best player in the draft.
As far as talent.
I think his other players better than him. Smith, I think is better.
More athletic, certainly.
I think Fox is better. But in terms of winning, I think he's going to be a champion very, very soon.
So do I. Meta, that UCLA team won 15 games, and they were the pits. And he mostly took the same roster the next year, and the conference was better, and they won 31. Whoa. And he led the nation in assists. Yeah. So there's something there.
No, he's going to be a champion very soon. I think a couple of the prime players right now in their prime, Paul George, LeBron James, these type of players, and not necessarily LeBron, but these type of players at that level, they might want to get to L.A.
I'm reading something here.
Yeah.
What is this thing about Zoe's shoes?
Oh yeah, I got the shoes.
What shoes? Oh, you bought them.
I got the shoes. I don't agree with how LeVar treated my friend over here.
Yeah, either do I.
But I do like even before that incident. I was a big fan of the shoes. I was a big fan of what they were trying to do.
Okay, now are they comfortable?
I'm not gonna get them until November.
Oh,
yeah. So I'm not getting them until November, but it's cool.
So you pay?
I paid $700.
What? God! What?
I paid $700.
Why did you do that?
Those are the luxury items that you buy, not the cars with the shoes.
Why did you pay that?
It was between a Gucci bag and the shoes, a book bag, and I got the
Why
shoes.
$700? Where'd you order them from?
From
Dubai.
Their site could be better. The site is a little bit, outdated.
Slow. Okay.
There's Flintstone era. They could be better. And I think the price point is high. I got it because I wanted to support, what was going on. But the price point is very high. When you got shirts for $20 and your shoes are $700, maybe they got to make the shirts $100 and make the shoes $200. It could be something like that. It'd be a little bit better.
All right. So when you're
like a businessman.
No, I'm not.
No, you're talking about you can put together these outfits at Nordstrom. You should go run a business dressing young guys in the NBA.
Does Nordstrom's have a shirt? But you're 6'8".
Yeah, you can get them custom at Nordstrom.
Can you?
No, Nordstrom's is great.
And what are you, size 15 feet?
16.
You can't get a shoe at Nordstrom.
Yeah, you can. Sometimes.
Yes, you can.
Sometimes they have your size.
Really?
Yeah, absolutely. Sometimes.
You ever go to Nordstrom and just look at if you just walked into a Nordstrom, could you find a shirt to fit you?
I can now I can. Back in 90, 99, I could not go to a department store and find anything. But now they got sizes everywhere.
All right. Good seeing you.
Thanks. Yep. Absolutely.
Takes more than a roof to make sure your home's covered. Farmers Insurance, 89 years of knowledge and experience to know what you need covered. Learn more. Farmers.com. In LA, it's The Herd. Welcome back. Tim Tebow is being promoted by the New York Mets from low-level single-A baseball to high-level single-A baseball. Some people are bothered by it. I am not. Minor league baseball is a place to, develop players, and sometimes it's also about just simple promotion. My first job out of college was working for a minor league baseball team. And I can remember in my first couple years doing it, I did it for about 2 years, there were all sorts of goofy promotions. And sometimes you would have players who were on a roster that weren't being developed. They were just sort of former major leaguers. They were a big name. You'd promote them. They were 33. They weren't going to the bigs. They'd already been there, cup of coffee. They were back. They loved the game. Maybe they had played for the Cubs. They'd been on TV, and they could get a few people to your game and sign autographs. It was just a good vibe. Minor league baseball is not like, the NFL or Major League Baseball when it's just about winning games. Minor league baseball, the lower levels sometimes, it's about developing players, and it's also about filling your stadiums for the owner of the minor league baseball team. And he's going to have fireworks shows and seat cushion night, and they'll have the Clown Prince of Baseball. I remember one time in a minor league game in Tucson. And I remember it because Craig Biggio was playing, and everybody said Craig Biggio is the next great player, and he was a very, very good player at AAA. And we were at this field called the High Corbett Field, and they buried a diamond during the game in the infield. Like, who would do that, right? Like, then during the game, people were digging for it in the infield, and there was a hole at short, and it was just not very smart. And, they would do stuff like you wouldn't bury something in the infield during the middle of a game, but it was minor league baseball, and you do stuff like that, and I'm okay with it. And Tim Tebow is a walking, talking seat cushion. He is there for promotion. He's not going to play in the bigs. He's a very marginal, very, very marginal, low-level single-A player. They're going to move him to Port St. Lucie, which is in Florida, and I imagine he'll be a terrific draw for the owner of that team. He'll sell out the stadium, and that's okay. Not everybody on a minor league baseball roster is there to develop into a world-class baseball player. Some guys never get to the bigs. Some get there for an hour and get sent back, and that's okay. That is okay. That is up to the proprietor who owns the team and the organization. And Tim Tebow right now for the Mets is part baseball, but mostly business. He's good for business. And I've said I've never rooted for Tim to make it to the bigs because I root for people who put in the time to be great. And I don't like Tim staying out of baseball for a decade, cherry picking, and then taking somebody's spot at the big league level when he doesn't deserve it. That's not what sports at the highest level should be about. To make a Major League Baseball roster, I want the most committed people with the greatest amount of passion and commitment to make it. I want to see in all businesses, finance, education, landscaping, media, sports. I want to see the people at the highest level being rewarded for their commitment and passion for the industry. I want people, Christine Leahy, she had worked in several markets, had busted her tail. She had more than earned the job. That's what this business is about. I don't have a problem with Tim Tebow. I don't have a problem with the sportscaster getting a job as the number 3 person in Fresno because they know the station's owner, okay? Like the dad knows the owner. That's fine. But when you're talking about getting a job at KNBC or WNBC and being the primary sports guy, I don't want that person getting a job because they know the owner. They have a relationship. That is a higher level. So Tebow is playing low-level baseball. It's gimmicky, and I'm okay with it. That situation doesn't bother me at all. I will say this. The NBA awards are tonight. I will not be watching.
Westbrook's going to have a good night.
Russell Westbrook's going to win. By the way, Charles Barkley and I share the same opinion. Back during the playoffs in May when the MVP finalists were announced and LeBron wasn't one of them, here's Charles Barkley.
Let me just say this. This is one of the stupidest things I've ever seen in the history of television. You got to have 5 guys. You can't have just these 3 guys. You can't have the best player in the world. Now, why would he show up? I mean, whoever came up with this concept, they just stupid. You got to have Kawhi Leonard.
So
and
you'd
rather
have 5
You got to have at least 5. You can't have the best player in the world sitting at home. That's just stupid.
There's never, as Nick Wright said earlier, there's never been a moment when Kawhi Leonard has been as good as LeBron James. And for most of his career, he hasn't been 60% of LeBron James. He is not more valuable than LeBron James. Not even close. It's silly. Nick Wright was on this show a while back about how MVP should be more than just, hey, he had a bunch of triple-doubles.
There's the fact that we are giving Russell Westbrook an MVP for being the second player to ever average a triple-double, yet LeBron James was just the first player to ever average a triple-double in the finals, and him winning finals MVP would have been laughable to everyone.
No question. So, as I said earlier, it's a sympathy vote. It is a Kevin Durant left you, we feel bad for you. This is what happened to Two and a Half Men. John Cryer, lead actor, nominated, won. It wasn't like John was significantly better actor, but he went through the Charlie Sheen chaos, madness, and people felt good dude, works hard, nice performer. Let's give him something here. Not that he didn't work hard and wasn't terrific and doesn't, he's had a hell of a career. But the point was there was a little bit of a sympathy vote for it because the Charlie Sheen was a mess. And this is like KD left. Let's take care of Russ. Russ next year will not be in the running. He will not be a top 3 MVP. We all know the story here. Goosing stats, triple-double. In the end, I still go back to I don't believe, I really do not believe that the triple-double helped Russell Westbrook league-wide for other players. I think they see him as kind of a tunnel vision player, goosing his own stats. So because of that, tonight I will not watch the MVP awards. I will watch instead Ninja Warrior on NBC, starring Christine Leahy in 140-degree temperatures.
No, this one is not in 140-degree temperatures. This is an episode that we shot previously in another city. It was probably really cold.
That's stupid.
No, it's not. It's produced television.
Okay. All right, Chris Broussard on the show tomorrow. Speak for yourself later today. TheHerdNow.com for more free stuff. It's The Herd. Oh, I'm sorry. I haven't been on TV in a couple days.
You're confused?
I'm sorry about that. I really am.
I hope that you watch American Ninja Warrior because I really want to know who your favorite ninja is. I think that will tell me a lot about you.
My favorite ninja?
Yeah, because they're ninjas that compete.
Well, they're people.
Well, yeah, they're people, but they have different characters and different personalities, different stories. So I really want to know which one connects with you or resonates with you.
Have you ever watched her show, John? She gets very defensive.
I have not.
Only because you have never watched it. And
I think you got to be careful. She's going to quiz you tomorrow.
Mm-hmm. And you, actually, now that we're talking about it.
Is the Big Three debut tonight? Oh, I'll watch that instead. Oh, the Big Three's on?
Come on.
Oh, I'm watching the Big Three. That's on tonight on FS1? Oh, I'm watching that for sure.
You just wanted to get out of the quiz.
No question about that. Now I can go. It's The Herd.